In a season that was supposed to be Red Bull's coronation run, the 2025 Formula One campaign has turned into a strategic nightmare. Max Verstappen, the relentless dominator of the hybrid era, now finds himself chasing shadows. Those shadows cast by the blistering pace of McLaren's MCL39. After taking a brilliant pole position in Miami, Verstappen was left defenseless on Sunday, helpless as both McLaren drivers and even Mercedes' George Russell drove past him with unnerving ease. The reigning champion finished fourth, not from lack of talent, but from a car that has become increasingly unpredictable. The culprit? A newly introduced floor upgrade to the RB21, meant to be a step forward, but instead shrouded the team in doubt. Verstappen couldn't feel its impact. The unique, awkward layout of the Miami street circuit clouded their data. And now, Red Bull turns its eyes to Imola with hope and urgency. Because if the new upgrades don't deliver, the season may slip away before summer begins. If you care about what happens when a dynasty starts to crack, this video is one you can't afford to miss. Subscribe now, and let's dive deeper. To truly understand the weight of Red Bull's Miami disaster, we must step back and consider the narrative arc of this season. Red Bull entered 2025 with high expectations, not just because of past success, but because of continuity. Same lead driver in Max Verstappen, same senior leadership under Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, and a team that, for 2 years, had rewritten the definition of dominance. And yet, we're now watching them stare down the barrel of a resurgent McLaren that has not only caught up, but has taken control. Let's begin with the critical component at the center of this unraveling: the floor of the RB21. In a ground effect era, the floor is everything. While wings and diffusers may draw attention, the real magic, or disaster, happens underneath the car. This is where downforce is generated through air channeling, and where ride height, rig, and aerodynamic stability must align in delicate harmony. When Red Bull introduced a revised floor package in Miami, it wasn't just a minor tweak. It was a bold move aimed at reclaiming the delta they'd lost to McLaren since Suzuka. But here's the irony. The more they changed, the less they understood. Verstappen, who thrives on precision and mechanical feedback, said something telling. "It all feels very weird here." That may seem like a throwaway line, but for a driver as technically dialed in as Max, it's a red flag. He couldn't read the car. He couldn't tell if the upgrade worked. And this disconnect between the driver's perception and the team's data is the heart of Red Bull's current dilemma. Miami was the perfect storm for confusion. A temporary street circuit with low grip, awkward corner profiles, inconsistent tarmac, and a layout that doesn't reward conventional balance. It's the kind of track where setups get lost and cars behave unpredictably. In that context, it's understandable that Red Bull struggled to extract a clear verdict on their new floor. But the problem is this: the clock is ticking and Red Bull is already running out of time to fix a car that is falling behind. What's even more worrying is that Miami wasn't an isolated event. If we rewind to Bahrain, the very first round of the season, Red Bull was already showing signs of trouble. Verstappen's long-run pace degraded faster than expected. Tire overheating, once a problem exclusive to rivals like Ferrari, began to rear its head in the RB21. Even at Suzuka, where Verstappen secured a win, McLaren was breathing down their necks in race pace. The pattern is undeniable. Red Bull's Achilles heel in 2025 is tire management. For years, Red Bull's advantage wasn't just raw pace. It was how gently it treated its tires. Verstappen could extract speed while preserving rubber, making him a race day monster. But this year, McLaren has flipped the script. The MCL39, designed with laser-focused attention to aerodynamic balance and thermal control, is now the gold standard in tire longevity. And when you combine that with a car that is consistently fast in both qualifying and race trim, you get a serious title contender. This is what made the Miami results so devastating. Verstappen's pole lap was breathtaking. His ability to extract one-lap pace from a car he didn't fully understand speaks to his brilliance. But once the lights went out on Sunday, the story turned grim. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris didn't just beat him, they dominated him. Piastri in particular looked like a future world champion in waiting, pulling away with confidence while Verstappen faded into the midfield. Even George Russell, in a Mercedes still searching for its identity, managed to get ahead. Now, let's talk about Helmut Marko's reaction, because it reveals just how seriously Red Bull is taking this downturn. It was depressing, he said. "We saw when they were driving flat out. We are 7/10 of a second behind." This is not a man prone to hyperbole. Marco, for all his gruffness, is usually controlled in his assessments. To hear him called the race pace depressing is a seismic moment. It means Red Bull no longer believes the gap to McLaren is small. They see it as significant, structural, and, perhaps most worryingly, not something that can be fixed overnight. Marco also made another critical admission, that Verstappen's pole was only possible because both McLaren's and Mercedes' Andrea Kimi Antonelli made errors in their final Q3 runs. That's a startling level of honesty, and it strips away any illusion that Red Bull is still leading the pack. Which brings us to the upcoming Grand Prix at Imola, a race now burdened with existential weight for the reigning champions. Red Bull will arrive in Italy with fresh upgrades, not just refinements to the floor, but likely new diffuser elements, reworked rear suspension geometry, and possibly new cooling solutions to address thermal degradation. But the truth is, they are now chasing a moving target. McLaren isn't standing still. Ferrari is looming with updates. And Mercedes, despite its early season slump, is rumored to bring a major floor and sidepod overhaul in Barcelona. Imola could therefore be the moment where Red Bull's season pivots. If the upgrades work, they'll claw back momentum. If not, we may witness a changing of the guard in real time. The track characteristics do offer some hope. Imola is smoother than Miami, with more traditional cornering forces and a layout that punishes instability under braking, an area where Red Bull has historically been strong. And with cooler temperatures forecasted, there's a chance the RB21 won't overheat its tires as quickly. But even so, the question remains, how much performance can really be gained from floor tweaks alone? Because here's the reality. If Red Bull's core concept is flawed, if the airflow philosophy of the RB21 simply can't match the MCL39's consistent load generation, then no upgrade package can fix that mid-season. That's a factory-wide rethink. That's a concept reset. And while that's plausible for 2026, it doesn't help in the next 16 races. There's also the matter of the flexible wing regulations tightening in Spain. Red Bull, long suspected of exploiting gray areas in wing flexibility, may find itself further hamstrung if those regulations cut into their downforce window. Christian Horner has publicly downplayed its impact, but insiders suggest the team is preparing contingency solutions. So where does all this leave Max Verstappen? On a personal level, Verstappen has been composed, but not immune to frustration. His interviews remain diplomatic, but you can sense the undercurrent of discontent. He's not angry. He's confused. He's in the prime of his career, but stuck with a car that doesn't respond the way he expects. That's dangerous, not for Red Bull's rivals, but for Red Bull itself. Because a frustrated Verstappen can become a restless Verstappen. And with whispers of contract exit clauses and long-term dissatisfaction, the implications go far beyond the season. Do you think the upgrades in Imola will be enough to rescue Red Bull's season? Or has McLaren already built an uncatchable beast? Let me know in the comments. The war is far from over, but the momentum has shifted.